You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of truth, a dimension of freedom, a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Welcome to the Capitalist Corner, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, with a whole lot to talk about today. Before that, I got a new episode out of The Rational Egoist. I interviewed the economist and the director of Soho Forum, Gene Epstein. We talked about Richard Cantillon, a much neglected economist who actually predated Adam Smith. So that's a great discussion. I highly recommend that. Persephone and I will be on today for both Everyday Ethics and... You're giving me a look.
No.
Okay. And Crime, Corrections, and Culture. Everyday Ethics, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And Crime, Corrections, and Culture, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a new member to our YouTube channel. Jeanette, thank you so much. And we've got a $1.99 super sticker from Robert Naser. Thank you so much. Persephone, what else we got? What do you got to tell them?
All of the articles today are available on the website. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitch. We need like 8 more subscribers. Please, so go make a Twitch account and follow us. All of the shows are also available on Spotify. Please go and listen and leave a rating because it's very helpful. And that's that. Oh, and become a channel member. We've already started posting members-only shorts, and there will be members-only videos coming up soon. So, it's cheap.
Oh, Saturday, by the way, we have a discussion, 12 noon Eastern Time, Capitalist Corner, weekend edition. Jim Valiant's going to join me because Persephone's bailing on me again. And Jim Valiant and I are going to be discussing deontological and teleological ethics. Be a good discussion, should be a ton of fun. Check it out. So I've actually got some pretty philosophical stuff that I would like to talk about today, but I want to go over just a couple of things before that. So Trump, of course, made the claim that with his tariffs, manufacturing jobs would come roaring back. A new study, however, says no, that's not the case, according to this Reason magazine article. I don't want to go through all the minutia with you because that'll just be a pain in the ass. I mean, I guess I could go over some of it. Yes, our trade with China has declined, but we've picked up the slack by importing from other countries. Also, our trade with Canada has declined, but our trade with other Europeans, our imports have risen. And, you know, even there's a lot of blocks anyways to the reshoring or moving manufacturing back here in terms of taxes and regulations that serve as deterrents to other companies. Plus, it's very time consuming. So the upshot here is that the tariffs are not doing what Trump said they would do, as most economists said that. The Reason article ends with, the White House will continue to hype any new investments in American factories for obvious reasons, but it is becoming obvious those investments are happening not because of the tariffs, but in spite of them. Persephone is typing away. I just hear click, 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 click.
I'm always typing. Always. Permanently.
You are always typing. That's I don't know what the hell it is. What the hell do I know? What the hell do I care? Not really much. So also we have, of course, Trump is out there and he's touting, he's threatening Iran. He's going to win the war. The war's already won, yada, yada, yada. Well, the Ayatollah, or the supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, has resurfaced. I guess he'd been missing for a while. And doesn't look like he's ready to compromise with the Donald. Let me just find some quotes from him. By God's help and power, the bright future of the Persian Gulf region will be a future without America, one serving the progress, comfort, and prosperity of its people. We and our neighbors across the waters of the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman share a common destiny. Foreigners who come from thousands of kilometers away to act with greed and malice there have no place in it except at the bottom of its waters. 2 months after the world's biggest military campaign and aggression in the region and America's shameful failure in its plan, a new chapter is drawing in the Persian Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. The foreigners who greedily commit evil in it from thousands of kilometers away have no place in it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're really deterred. We've bombed the living hell out of them, killed thousands, have cut off their ports, and they don't seem to be ready to quit. I think, again, I'll say it, I think Trump has gotten himself into something that he simply did not depend on. He didn't count on. He didn't anticipate. I think that he's typical narcissist, thinks everything's going to come easy to him and gets himself into things, and now the rest of us are going to pay for it. So that's my take. Persephone, what do you say here?
I agree with you. Stomp his little feet. Wants everything when he wants it. What else can you say, really?
Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is the testimony. Hegseth testified before Congress. I watched some of it. He doesn't strike me as a very bright guy. I haven't followed him, extensively. This might have been a one-off. I might have just been seeing something out of context. I don't know. But he doesn't strike me as a smart guy. He did say this, though. The biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words of correctional Democrats and some Republicans. I guess in his mind, and you come across this often, are people just supposed to ignore the fact that it was predicted 4 to 6 weeks and we're now over 8 weeks? Are we supposed to ignore that last year they said that their nuclear arsenal was obliterated and now we have to go take them out because of their nuclear abilities or nuclear ambitions? Are we to ignore that they've closed down the Straits of Hormuz, which wasn't closed before, that gas prices are rising, that the Iranians show no sign of quitting, that our allies don't want anything to do with it? Yes, Pete Hegseth, the United States military has devastated the country of Iran. Nobody is doubting that. The point is, it's an unconstitutional war that was predicted we'd be out of in 6 weeks. Now it's 8. And there doesn't seem to be any off-ramp, any end in sight. Am I missing something here, Persephone?
Yes, people are supposed to just ignore their lying eyes. That's the whole point. That's the only way that this functions, is if people just blindly accept whatever the current administration says. They're not supposed to fact check. They're not supposed to remember what was said 2 days ago. And whether that's like, well, we expect you not to remember, or we think you're stupid, so it doesn't matter if we are consistent in our messaging. Yes, the general assumption is that people are not going to question, that they're just going to blindly go along with whatever the government says is good for them and for America and for the rest of the world. So yeah, don't question, don't remember, don't fact check. Just accept.
Persephone, do me a favor, because Ian asked a good question that I was thinking about actually earlier this morning. Can you Google when the War Powers Act kicks in? When does Congress, on what date does Congress have to actually approve the war that we're in? Also, they fired this guy, a general of some sort, and it says... The congressperson asked Hegseth, it says, you have no way of explaining why you fired one of the most decorated and remarkable men. And Hegseth just says, Mark is a few blocks away, so he'll be here soon. He says, we needed new leadership, so there was no explanation. Hegseth also seemed to conflate having nuclear ambitions with being an imminent nuclear threat, because it was asked, how are they an imminent threat if we've destroyed their nuclear capabilities? And Hegseth says, well, they still want nukes. Yeah, that doesn't, and he said, and they've got a missile defense stuff. Yeah, that doesn't make them an imminent nuclear threat.
I mean,
Okay,
just the fact that they want it doesn't mean that they're going to get it, that they have the capabilities. So the deadline is essentially today, May 1st. Well, that's
okay.
tomorrow.
May 1st is the deadline. My question, what I'm wondering, Persephone, because I have this feeling about what's going to happen, and I don't know the law, so if you can look it up while I'm running my mouth. My guess is that Congress is going to do nothing. And given that the Republicans in Congress aren't going to assert themselves and they control the House and Senate, my guess is the Democrats won't be able to stop it. If they do nothing, does the war legally have to stop? That's what I want to know. So if Congress fails to stop it, does the war legally have to stop? If Trump is simply focused on grift, his behavior makes sense, from Greg Doherty. So what's the answer to that, Persephone, that great question that I just asked?
On paper, yes. In practice, almost certainly no. So legally, yes, but it's unlikely that it will happen. If Congress hasn't authorized the war by the deadline, the president must end the military action.
Okay, so I'm going to make
So the text of the law is unambiguous. Congressional inaction is automatic termination. But
Okay.
But it has no self-executing enforcement mechanism, and there's no clear legal avenue for Congress to successfully force the president to abide by that requirement.
Okay, so my guess what's going to happen, this is my prediction, for what it's worth. They're going to do nothing. And what's going to occur is the Democrats in the fall are going to take the House. They're going to take that, and then they're going to impeach. And then that's going to ultimately backfire on them. I think that Trump is likely to argue, and I don't think it's a good argument, but my guess is he's going to argue that there's a pause during ceasefires. That's my guess.
I mean, but that's ridiculous. If he does argue that, I mean, but yeah, you're right.
Well, you got me there, Persephone, because Trump would never, ever make a ridiculous argument.
But, like, yes, ridiculous arguments, sure, but that's beyond ridiculous. Also, what is the point of this? What is the point of saying, like, legally the president has to stop, but there's actually no mechanism for enforcing that? Like, what is the point of this?
Well, because when people pass laws, they don't understand or maybe don't care that you're dealing with human beings, and if human beings are scummy, it doesn't matter what the hell you say. That's what I experienced this when I was doing the alternative violence project in prison. I had the genius idea, because the other inmate facilitators, a lot of them were very unethical. Well, let's enact a code of ethics for the group. And my thinking was, okay, everybody's going to agree to it, and then we'll hold them accountable. What ended up occurring was we did the code of ethics, and then nobody followed it. And when I brought it up, they told me I was being too rigid. So unless you have people that are willing to hold others accountable and not just do so in a vengeful fashion like Trump does, you're screwed. Ian Gilmore says there's no mechanism in any U.S. federal law that doesn't depend on the executive branch actually doing it. Yeah.
So one legal scholar actually said, in the face of congressional inaction and without judicial enforcement, there are no checks on the president's ability to unilaterally wage war. Which is scary. See,
the thing is there's times when this stuff really breaks down. In the past, a lot of the times when it was really bad, parties would hold their own accountable. We now are in a situation where the people that run for office and win the primaries for Republicans are Trump sycophants. The people that are in Trump's cabinet are Trump sycophants. So there's essentially no checks on him. Ian Gilmore brings up a great topic, and it's actually a great segue into the main topic of the day. He says it's an ancient problem with no solutions. Who watches the watchman? So, Persephone, you have a quote for me from James Madison. Can you post it, please? So I read a good article this morning about Friedrich Hayek and, what's the best mechanism to get liberty in. And they talk about the very problem, of course, that Ian Gilmore is mentioning. And as I read the article, I just thought of James Madison, and I thought of the founding generation. And then in the article, they actually mentioned James Madison and the founding generation. Sephi, look alive.
Give me a hot second.
A hot second?
A hot second.
We love super chats and super stickers, by the way, just so everybody knows. Okay, let's see what we got here. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and the next place oblige it to control itself. And there's just, it's all in the end dependent on what the people do. Right. And the anti-federalists at the founding of the country were concerned about the strength of the central government. Oh, my Lord. Why? Why me? Mark has to make a quick stop before he comes. He just realized it right now. Okay. Anyways, the Anti-Federalists opposed the strength of the central government. They insisted upon and got the Bill of Rights. They wanted the states to have more rights. They thought that the Anti-Federalists worried that the president would function as an elected king, holding too much power over the military. This was the Anti-Federalists' concern. Of course, the Federalists won the debate, but this has always been a problem, as Ian says, and there's not really a solution other than having a better populace that elects better people. Persephone, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I have none.
You have nothing?
On this topic, no, I literally have nothing. It's... No.
Well, all right.
Zero thoughts here.
Well, that's a little disconcerting on me. I got to tell you. All right. Anyways,
I bring other things to the table.
You do bring other things to the table. So the article is called Hayek's Dilemma, and it talks about people that what. Let me just say what the question is. Even among sincere friends of freedom, disagreement over government's role runs deep. Can a state be big enough to defend liberty without also violating it? And of course, it gets into libertarians, conservatives, ANCAPs, even mentions Ayn Rand, but it's predominantly about Friedrich Hayek and his essay on, it talks about the road to serfdom, but it's primarily the Constitution of Liberty, it seems to me. And the author of this article, Nikolai Wenzel, says Hayek was no, real small government libertarian, and he talks about the types of things that Hayek actually supported. And let me just get down here, and we can talk about some of these things. Hayek argues that the state can assure a basic minimum income. Clearly, that's not a liberty position. He also He offers three conditions, Hayek does, when government can intervene. Government does not claim a monopoly and new methods of rendering services through the market are not prevented. So government can't hold a monopoly over charity, for instance. The means are raised by taxation on uniform principles, and taxation is not used as an instrument for redistribution. So initiating force to take people's money is okay as long as you're not redistributing it. I don't know how you're not going to redistribute it if you're guaranteeing a basic minimal income, but hey. Then he says the wants satisfied are collective wants of the community. He wants to, do the whole, everybody's got to benefit. Murray Rothbard, and we'll post this, I assume, or Seffi already posted it. Murray Rothbard was very critical. Mises actually did criticize Hayek a little. Murray Rothbard said, let me back up. This was Mises's critique. Professor Hayek has misjudged the character of the welfare state. Then Mises went on to praise Hayek. But Rothbard, I want to find some good Rothbard quotes here. Ayn Rand said that Hayek's work is a real poison because he's willing to balance freedom with various forms of collectivism. I want to get some good Rothbard quotes. I know that the folks in the audience, a lot of them may not be big Rothbard fans, but Rothbard does have some things. Rothbard starts his article with, F.A. Hayek's Constitution of Liberty is surprisingly and distressingly an extremely bad, and I would say evil, book. Since Hayek is universally regarded, this is written in 1958, so I believe that's before he broke with Rand, actually. Since Hayek is universally regarded by right and left alike as the leading right-wing intellectual, this will also be an extremely dangerous book. The feeling one gets from reading it is the same sort of feeling I would have gotten if I had been a U.S. Senator when Taft got up to support the Wagner public housing bill. So let me see some of the things that he critiques. Hayek begins very well by defining freedom as absence of interpersonal coercion and rejecting other definitions, but he begins to define coercion and the descent into the abyss begins. He defines coercion as physical violence or the threat thereof, as would, he defines it to mean specific acts of one person with intent of harming another. He says, well, that's okay. But he says that if the government act is laid down as a general rule in advance so that the subject can predict its coming, then whatever it is not coercion. So, in essence, if you know the government is going to do it, it's not coercion. And Rothbard brings some, great examples. So if you knew ahead of time they're going to torture you, that would be okay. And Rothbard identifies the big problem with Hayek, or a big problem with Hayek, is Hayek rejects the idea of morals. Now, Rothbard talks about rationalism, and he supports rationalism and the rationalist conception of rights, which, of course, I would not endorse. But nevertheless, once you've dropped the idea that there can be an objective morality, you then, limits are off. What is going to be your delimiting principle? What is your standard to stop? Anytime somebody can make an argument that it's for the society's good, well, what are you going to respond with? You know what I mean, Persephone?
I do know what you mean, but you can't. You can't, because everybody can give motivations for a lot of things, but this is for the society's good, which some people are going to agree with and some people aren't.
I really want Mark to get here before I jump to the next topic, Persephone. So, you posted something here to Twitch. Let me share that. Why don't we take a quick second here, not a hot second, a quick second, Persephone, and you can tell everybody, again, about all the great things that we have. Greg Doherty, I am not like a complete Hayek hater. I think Hayek's economics, his analysis of prices, trade cycles are great. I love The Road to Serfdom. Thought it was a great book. Why the Worst Got on Top is a phenomenal chapter. Nevertheless, like Milton Friedman, there is a lot of bad with Hayek. Friedman, for instance, arguing that public education benefits everybody because having an educated populace is good, so you can justify having public education. But okay, Persephone, enlighten us. Tell us all about the channel. Tell us what we got going on, everything.
So, please go and follow us on Twitch. And then 3 shows, all under the umbrella of the Rational Alternative, Crime, Corrections, and Culture. We finished reading Down the Rabbit Hole, How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime. And we're now reading Inside the Criminal Mind. Everyday Ethics, every day at whatever time it is, because it's 7:30 for me. I don't know what time that is in America. Please also go and check out the website. I don't think a lot of people do. Every day, mostly every day, we post all of the articles that Michael sends at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We got show notes where we cover all of the topics that were covered that day. There's a blog. We have a couple of good blogs up there. We have a great list of book recommendations from economics, politics, philosophy, ethics, epistemology, and moral transformation. So that's all the books that Michael and Mark have recommended over the, history of the channel. We're also on Spotify, The Capitalist Corner, Everyday Ethics and Crime, Corrections and Culture. The channel now has memberships. There's 3 tiers of memberships. We got Friend of the Show, Patron, and then the big one, which is Ambassador. And if you become an Ambassador, you get a discount on the merch which is also available on the website. And there's amazing merch. There's Don't Be a Dick, there's Be Ethical, there's the other one, which I'm not going to say. Oh,
Speaking of which, I came across a great suggestion on Facebook. You know the Fuck Kant shirt?
I do.
Okay, now it says Fuck Kant and then Fuck Kant in small letters. In the small letters, change Fuck Kant to categorically.
Deal.
Somebody suggested that on Facebook. I thought it was a very, 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 very good suggestion.
So we will have that. We also have the extremely petty version of the Fuck Kant shirt, which instead of being, a design, is just a refutation of Kant's philosophy, which I personally thought was really funny. That is available for purchase if anybody's interested. And beanies, and patches, and magnets.
And somebody's going to be getting free stuff soon too, right?
Someone is going to be getting free stuff. One of the Twitch people is going to be getting a free piece of merch or a copy of Down the Rabbit Hole, depending on what they want. But also, there's the inside jokes. There's the inside joke shirts. Because we do have Gothic Whores support capitalism, which I don't know if many people know that. We've got shirts and beanies and patches that say Gothic Whores support capitalism. And I think that's neat.
I do too, but I'm going to have to jump to the next topic, Mark notwithstanding. I just can't postpone it any longer, I'm afraid. So, Mark had sent me a laugh face just now. By the way, let me tell you first, before I get to, let me just tell you some of the things that Ayn Rand said about Friedrich Hayek. Maybe that'll be nice. This is from whatever this is here, Gemini. Ayn Rand vehemently opposed Friedrich Hayek, dismissing him as a compromiser and an abysmal fool. Mark just came up with another excuse for why he can't be here. So I'm going to go on and just assume Mark is not coming. All right. So I got to thinking this morning about a discussion that's common in circles of liberty advocates. And it's what is more effective, the economic arguments or moral arguments. So I went through multiple AIs with this. I did some articles on moral motivation. These are all going to be posted or already have been posted. So I asked if there had ever been any studies done on the effectiveness of moral versus economic arguments for liberty. And it's a short answer. There's surprisingly little direct, clean experimental research that pits ethical versus economic arguments for capitalism head to head. Most of the literature treats them as intertwined rather than competing. But there is some evidence from political psychology, yada, yada. So the bottom line here is this. There's no decisive study showing ethical beats economic or vice versa, but the best supported synthesis is moral framing is generally more powerful for changing minds. So what we've been saying is true. I do think that it gets overstated, and what I looked at today seems to indicate that's correct, that it's overstated. It says economic arguments are better for reinforcing or refining existing beliefs. That's from, what was that from there? Chat. Then from Claude. Claude says, at least one practitioner perspective holds that moral arguments are far less persuasive than economic ones when it comes to defending capitalism. However, Feinberg and Willer have a moral reframing research at Stanford, and they say it's most directly relevant body of work. They find that political messages are more persuasive when framed in terms of the audience's own moral values rather than the messenger's. That's actually could be a problem because what we need people to do is change their moral framework. That's what we're after. Let me find here. Then the practical implications for my work. Claude now knows me, so always feels the need to give me some advice toward the end. So he says, defending capitalism to audience who may already be sympathetic, economic arguments probably reinforce rather than convert, but for genuinely persuading skeptics, the Willer-Feinberg research suggests a moral argument framed in their values may actually be the more powerful play. The Randian approach of leading with ethics as foundational and economics as derivative has some empirical backing in that sense, though it depends on whether your target audience already accepts the underlying moral premises. I then moved on. I went to Grok on the topic. And I asked, are moral considerations strong motivations of behavior? And it says, yes, studies show that moral considerations are significant motivations for human behavior, though their influence varies by context, individual differences, and interaction with other factors like self-interest, social norms, and emotions. Then, it goes on. There's some articles. I then wanted to know how difficult it is to actually get people to change their moral viewpoints. And I got from Gemini, changing moral beliefs is exceptionally difficult because moral convictions are deeply ingrained, often linked to personal identity, and resistant to contradicting information. People tend to treat moral commitments as rigid, viewing those who change their minds as hypocritical. There's also emotional and social resistance, intuition first, reasoning second, a threat to identity. The framing matters, and the power of counterfactuals. It says one-on-one discussions are best when trying to change people's minds. So the bottom line is that, yes, moral arguments tend to be better at converting people than economics. Yes, people are motivated by moral considerations, but it is extreme. Mark sent me a movie. Okay. It's extremely difficult to get people to change their views, and when doing, we might want to do so, or probably in a one-on-one context. Now, what I found, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess disturbing would be the case, is just how much these issues are framed in terms of altruism or others. That it's, Persephone, can you post some of the quotes I sent you? Put them up on the screen here, please. Just how it's like what Ayn Rand called the I didn't send you the quotes?
No? The images?
I sent you 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all right underneath the moral reasoning enables developmental and societal change article.
Is it the pictures that you sent?
Yes, they're not brief. They're quotes that I screenshot and sent to you. Now I forgot what I was going to say. It's often framed in terms of others. For instance, there was a good article, or could have been a really, really good article, on how moral reasoning enables developmental and societal change. That by engaging in moral reasoning, we can change things. So let me just share a few of these quotes. Betraying the group norm can result in exclusion from the group and accusations of disloyalty, given that peer group identity becomes increasingly salient during late childhood, and through adolescence, being disloyal to the group becomes a substantial something.
Obstacle to challenging group norms, even ones that are perceived to be unfair.
Okay. So that refers to the difficulty of changing people's norms, and that is because people attach so much importance to the opinions of others. Group affiliation is a part of being human. Beginning in childhood, deviation is recognized as likely to result in exclusion, stigmatization, and ostracism. That's another reason it's difficult to change minds. Here's what the big thing, though. We define moral reasoning as transitions in thought in accordance with endorsed moral principles. In turn, we define moral principles as prescriptive principles concerning others' welfare, rights, equality, fairness, and justice. The definition stems from work in moral philosophy. What's this here? Okay, I'll get that after. So the thing is in virtually everything that I looked at this morning that was relating to morality, leave that one there. What's this here? I got something else from Persephone? No, we don't want that one. Okay. We have a lot of work to do because we need to help people to change their moral framework, to stop thinking of morality as commands or duties, to stop viewing morality as rules about how you treat and interact with other people, to get people to stop thinking that altruism is in any way a respectable moral point of view. That is going to take a lot. That's a tall, tall task. I mean, Ayn Rand began it, in the 30s? That's almost 100 years ago. It's been, 89 years, I think, since Anthem was published. Greg Doherty says morality is usually learned by osmosis and maintained by social needs. Changing often requires a study of metaphysics and epistemology, not exactly a popular topic of study. That's the big challenge, in my view, is getting people to change their views would, Akira Felix said up here that, we can't expect people to learn an entire philosophy. Therefore, we shouldn't make moral arguments for capitalism. Well, the flip side of that then is you want people to learn an entire body of economics, right? So I would suggest this, right? That most people think robbery is wrong. Most people think stealing is wrong. Most people think violence is wrong. There's just a large disconnect between what they'll allow the government to do in their name and what they'd actually do themselves or tolerate in the people around them. So we can appeal to those norms when making our arguments, but we also need ways to, he said, I'm paraphrasing the libertarian approach. That wasn't actually Akira's position. What we do need to do, or what we ought to do, I guess, maybe the better thing, is learn how to communicate ideas in an accessible way that gets people thinking about them quickly. Not an easy task. Not an easy task. But you know what would hurt it? If we refuse to talk to people we disagree with because we're saying that by doing so sanctions them, by accusing everybody who disagrees with us of evading, lying, some other form of dishonesty, or being dumb, accusing our own friends of being rationalists or evil because we happen to come to a different political conclusion than them, right? Those are obstacles. When you do that to people, hand goes up, stop, block, there, resistance. Almost always. So what we need to do is learn to be better communicators. All of us. Me, Persephone, of course. I'm teasing you, Persephone, of course. But we need to learn how to communicate better. We need to communicate like actual human beings, be relatable to other people. You know, you go and you meet somebody and you want to talk to them about capitalism. If you start with, well, in order to defend capitalism, you're definitely going to need a proper epistemology. So why don't we start by understanding the problem of universals in history first, and then we can show the proper approach. We can reduce entities to units, understand that when we differentiate one group from another, there's a conceptual common denominator amongst them, and they're separated along that line, and the point at which they're separated forms the definition for the new concept. Nobody is coming to capitalism with that. Nobody. Nobody's coming to philosophy with that. Nobody's coming to capitalism with that. Nobody wants to hear that unless they're already studying philosophy. But what you can do while we're talking to people is say, well, you know, reason actually is how we gain knowledge. Emotions aren't going to tell you the truth or falsity about anything. You start with that. You could even say something like, listen, if you have two contradictory views, one of them's wrong, that's not extensive. Most people understand that on some level. But you could say that. You could say, the enemies of capitalism distort history and are distorting morality. And oftentimes good people just don't understand the implications of their views. For instance, did you know that ultimately taxation relies on force and is theft, things that you would never do yourself? People can grasp that kind of stuff. Persephone, am I wrong here? Look alive. Jump into the fray.
You're not wrong.
Sephi.
Just said it works well for a Marx cosplay. That's rude. I agree.
You have an evil mustache?
So I don't know. You weren't paying attention, but while you were talking, I did this.
Oh.
I once braided my hair into a beard. Anyway. Oh wait, I have thoughts on this.
Well,
all of this seems very basic to me. It seems like common sense, because coming from a marketing perspective, you don't sell people something based on what you want. When you're selling something to someone, you go based on what they want and what they need and what their goals are. And selling an idea is the same as selling a product or a service. You have to explain in words that appeal to them, in words that they understand. And when it comes to ethics and it comes to capitalism, you have to start the conversation for those people in ways that don't say altruism is evil, because you're already putting up like a wall, because they're like, oh, well, so you hate other people. So you have to approach things in a way that sort of is more simple for them to understand, that you're speaking to them in their own language. Unfortunately, can you hear the hooter outside?
The what?
The hooter. What do you guys call it? That's what it is. It's a hooter.
Over here, we call hooters or boobs. What that is a car horn.
It's not a horn, though. It's a hooter.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. What's a hooter, they want to know? Is that a type of monkey?
No, that's a howler.
Well, there could be a hooter monkey, too. Robert Naser says, I must ask you to behave, which I thought was
Shan't.
great. Let me show you this here. This is why, this is a good advice to an extent. It says, to be effective, creating change requires not an intuition, hunch, or gut reaction. I agree. But clear and unambiguous statements. Yes. Then here we go. About the obligation to treat others with fairness and integrity. Now, on the face of it, treating others with fairness and integrity is important. I don't disagree with that. Then we go on to this. An unequivocal assertion about the necessity to correct an injustice. Basically what they're, it's just liberal gobbledygook, progressive nonsense. That's assumed to be the correct moral position and then, imprinted into the article that otherwise could have been good. So this says more, if humans could not reason about moral tensions in laws or practices, such as the contradiction between human rights and slavery, they could not, I can't read it, Persephone, because of the bar you've got here. What does it say? They could not what?
The bar that I put there. They could not advocate for changing those laws and practices in the moral terms deployed throughout history.
Yes. And that's true, is that we do need to argue the moral case. We just don't want to do so from an altruistic perspective. What we really need, and I haven't put it together yet, we need a good elevator pitch for egoism, for liberty, for capitalism. We need to be able to make these arguments quick in a way that somebody will actually listen to them rather than run away from them.
Wait, can I share something?
No. Of course you can share something, Persephone.
Sometimes you're so mean to me, and I just wonder.
No, they're not ponying up. We've got no super chats, no super stickers, and I suspect it's because Mark didn't share the episode. But he has been able to text me about 30 times. So I'm going to yell at him.
You yell at everyone. It's just kind of what you do.
Well, come on. What do you mean I'm yelling at everyone? Well, I mean, really, I texted it to him at the beginning of the show. He's managed to text me. Let me count. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times he's texted me. And that time he couldn't post it?
He's got 10 minutes still to show up. There, I put the thing on the thing. No, the other one.
We got a super sticker from Nicole for $5. Thank you. We're going to get rid of this. All right, now go ahead and read it, Persephone. Read to the class.
Oh, we're rational animals. Unlike every other species, we don't survive by instinct. We survive by thinking. We must figure out how to feed ourselves, shelter ourselves, protect ourselves from nature, and sometimes each other. We transform our environment through intellectual effort. Everything we need to live, from the simplest tool to the most complex technology, comes from the human mind, applied to the problem of survival and flourishing. This fact has profound implications. If humans survive by thinking, then humans need freedom to think, to act on their thinking, to trade the products of their thinking with others, and to keep what they produce. Human dignity requires the freedom to direct your own life, make your own choices, pursue your own goals, and live by your own judgment. Capitalism is the only economic system built on this reality. It's the only system that treats humans as thinking beings who need freedom to exercise their rational capacity. Every attack on capitalism is, at root, an attack on human nature itself.
That's good. That's Ayn Rand, I'm sure. What's it from?
It's from a blog on the Capitalist Corner website.
Oh, that wasn't Ayn Rand?
No, that was me.
Whoa!
So that's the blog called The Capitalism Scapegoat, which is a relatively long blog that details the problems that are blamed on capitalism and how they're not actually capitalism's fault. They're at the root of it is government intervention. And I recommend everyone read it because I thought it was good. Marx
That is
read
good.
it.
That's
and
great.
He gave some input on that. So that's all I had.
Do you want me to put the other thing up there too?
What other thing?
The other thing that you have right here, WhatsApp image.
Oh no, that's something else.
Persephone, I feel left out. What have I got to do to make Michael yell at me too? Maybe call him Mike, tell him he lost the debate. Not an option. I don't tell lies. Thank you, Robert. He says you're surprised Michael didn't know. No, there's no need to be surprised.
I mean, to be fair, I did send it to him. I wonder if people know how many blogs are actually on the website, because we've got a couple, and I know I wrote them, but I personally think they're pretty good. So we've got The Capitalism Scapegoat, Choosing Intellectual Honesty Over Political Tribes. That's a great one. How Public School Systems Strangle Educational Freedom. That's a good one. The Unity of Rights, Why Economic and Civil Liberties Cannot Be Separated, inspired by the great James Valiant. The Rush to Judgment, that was about people who rush to judgment. That was written just after what happened with Charlie Kirk. The Redefinition of Incitement, Collectivism as Mysticism, How Tribal Thinking Abandons Reality.
Ian Gilmore says it's not easy to find the website.
It's available if you go to the Capitalist Corner channel and you click on the About. The link is there. It's also at the bottom of the screen here in this little bar. It's just thecapitalistcorner.org. And Morality Under the Gun. And I highly encourage everyone to read that and to watch that episode, because that was about Gaza, and then realize that Mark and Michael had basically an identical discussion about the Iran.
I was able to find it very quickly, Ian. Very, very quickly. I just put in thecapitalistcorner.org, came right up.
Yes, Ian, it is the rational alternative. Now, the website is still The Capitalist Corner, but that will be changing eventually. Don't worry, though, there will be links. Everybody's making me feel really bad by saying they can't find the website.
They're making you feel very bad.
It's just thecapitalistcorner.org, guys.
Ian Gilmore says if you know the URL, it's easy to find. The URL's been on the screen for months, Ian.
It really has.
But Ian, the URL's been on the screen, Ian, for months, and we announce it all the time.
Also, if you are ever on Twitter and you read the show notes or the recommended reading, those are all hosted on the website.
Okay. Who's this? Akira Felix said he had to go to the YouTube channel to find the website. See, this is Ian says that assumes I'm paying attention.
I actually wrote a blog about universal basic income in July of last year. So if anybody wants to read why that's a really stupid idea, I can highly recommend that blog. Lee says it's on the screen. Yeah, it is. And it has been there for
So here's this is what I want everybody to take away from today is I think philosophical arguments are extremely important. I think highly abstract arguments, or complex rather arguments, are very important. I think that we need to, for those that are in the, though in that area of complexity and engaging at that level, I think it's important to understand philosophy and economics. But everybody doesn't need to understand those things fluently. We can all make a case, and we need to learn how to do it in such a way that people are receptive to. Ian Gilmore asked me if I've thought about interviewing the people from Capitalism magazine. I haven't actually thought about it. If you think that's a good idea, maybe I will. But Robert Naser says they're kind of a mess these days, but he cuts him slack because he sang with Mark Takuna at a London pub after Ayn Rand Con. Yeah, I just, I don't know. I don't want to get into talking about the folks from Capitalism magazine. I'm far more interested in talking about ethics, economics, capitalism.
How the culture of corrections encourages crime.
That's what you want to talk about? Well, we're going to do that.
We are going to do that in
today.
2 hours.
At 3:15 today, Crime, Corrections, and Culture, live on this channel. So I think that's a good thing, too. I want to find the questions from yesterday, see if anybody answered whatever the question was. I don't remember what I asked. What's HBL? Oh, Harry Binswanger Live. Akira, I told you, if you can get Adam Mossoff to debate me, I'd be happy to do it. I've offered, he didn't accept, and I'm not going to berate him about it. You know what I mean? It seems nobody, not one person, answered the question yesterday. None.
Did they?
None.
It's rude.
I'm very saddened.
What was the question?
I don't remember. Oh, what can we do non-politically to make this a better country? Nobody answered. Okay. Let me give today's.
It's a hard question, though.
Let me give today's capitalist thought of the day, and then Persephone can ask the question. I hope she has a good one. But I kind of already gave the capitalist thought of the day, but I'm going to give another one. We here at the Capitalist Corner aim to promote freedom. Not just economic freedom, but personal liberty. The right of people to do whatever it is they choose to do, so long as they are not violating the rights of others. We wholeheartedly believe that the moral case is that people should act in their own rational interests. You are not put on this earth to be a slave, to be a dependent, to sacrifice your well-being and your values to others. You are on this earth, and it's your life to live, and we each only get one, and they are not all that long. So we need to do the best that we can to live the best lives that we can, and that includes living in a free society. That includes living in a capitalist society. Far from creating conditions of exploitation or degrading work conditions or whatever other tropes are out there, capitalism actually creates the conditions in which human ingenuity, human integrity, human dignity can thrive, and that's why we're here advocating for it. Thank you. All right, Sephi.
Okay, my question is, what is your favorite Capitalist Corner inside joke? What is your favorite, it doesn't necessarily have to be a joke, but your favorite running gag from the Capitalist Corner? Because there are a few, which get mentioned sometimes in the chat. So what's your favorite Capitalist Corner running gag, inside joke, random quote? Mine is I fucking and Mork and Milk.
All right, folks. We will be on Everyday Ethics today on this channel, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Persephone, I'm sure, will have a great topic for us to discuss, as she usually does. Even if it gets on my nerves, it will make for a good topic. And also today, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Crime, Corrections, and Culture. We're discussing the great Stanton Samanow's book, Inside the Criminal Mind. Other than that, we will see you tomorrow here, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, on the Capitalist Corner. Until then, remember, check your premises. Peace.